Good afternoon, and it's Learning with Mr. Lovell again. Today it's a little bit different though. We're used to just having videos for maths and literacy. However, I thought I'd do something a little bit different today, and we're going to look at some geography. Ooh! Geography focusing on reading four-figure grid references. Now, I should have added something a little bit extra to the title there, on maps. So we're going to do a little bit of map work today, and we're going to be looking at how we can read a map. So the first question that we need to actually answer is, what do we use maps for in the first place? Now, a map is just a two-dimensional drawing of a three-dimensional place. And all that means is it's a flat version of the world. So it's a flat drawing. It's almost like what you might call a bird's eye view. A bird's looking down and he's drawing some symbols to show you this is what he can see below us. And it helps us locate places, helps us where we might find, like it says here, a post office, a campsite, schools, toilets, museums, mountains, rivers, roads. All of these things are located on maps. And we use them to help us plan a route to get from A to B. For example, planning a route, this is how I'm going to get from Redcar to Stockton. And it helps us because it would have a symbol of where the path would be. So we made sure we weren't going to walk on the main road. Where would you find a map? So if you were thinking about where have you seen a map for, where might you say? And it doesn't have to be somewhere where you can find your place to get from Redcar to Saltburn. The first place I actually thought of was completely different to being a road map, and it was a theme park. So places like Flamingo Land, places like Edinburgh Zoo, places like some water parks would have a map that looks like just the one in the bottom right here, the one that we can see. Well, here's a pointer on this one down here, and it shows us where, for example, I might want to go to, can't actually read any of the labels, but Iceland, if this was called Iceland, don't know if it is, but if it was, then I would know that's where I've got to go, and I've got to follow the path up and round to get to where I need to be. Number two, you might look on a sat-nav, and you might be looking in your car, looking at how to get to a certain place, and the sat-nav would tell you your route. Number three, you might be in places like London or lots of cities, and this is a tube map. So it tells you if you wanted to get from here on the tube, you'd need to get on here. You might want to go from here and you might want to get to up here. And it will tell you need to get on here and you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stops. Might have seen something like this. This is like a Google Maps, so you might use it on your computer to see where places are. But the one we're going to focus on today is one that looks like this. This would be the most common map you might use if you were trying to get from Southbank to North Ormsby, and it would show you things that you need to follow and things that you might. So, an introduction to the map that we've just looked at on the previous slide, the one that I said we'd be focused on today. They're called something called an OS map, or shortened down to that, and it just means an Ordnance Survey map. It's just basically, Ordnance Survey is the kind of the brand, you might say, the people who make the map, and it covers every single, and they cover every single square kilometre of the UK. So every single footstep, every single place you could stand in the UK is covered by an OS map of some sort. That doesn't mean that I would be able to buy a huge one that would cover the whole of the UK. It's split up into certain regions. So, for example, we might get one that would cover Middlesbrough, and we might get one that might cover the North York Moors, and we might get one that covers Newcastle, for example. You are not going to get one for the whole of the UK because it would go on for miles and miles. Instead, it's split up into lots of little different maps, and you would basically buy one for the place that you needed it for. Grids and the OS maps, like we saw before, they're split up into lots of little squares. And the reason why is if I was lost, I would be able to say, I am in this square. But also it helps me find my way around a certain place. And every single square on those maps is 1 kilometre in real life. So that's like going from school to around about Eston Park School. You might get to around about there in 1 kilometre, and all of that would be in one of those little squares. So I said in the learning objective, we're going to be looking at something called 4-figure grid references. And that's basically a reference, a certain point that you would say, and it tells you exactly where you are on a map. So like I said earlier, if you were to get lost, you would give somebody that exact location and say, this is where I am. So if you needed something like an ambulance, you would tell them, this is where I am on the map, come and find me here on the map. And you would give them your 4-figure grid reference that we're going to look at finding. So we're going to now look at how we can find those reference points. So this is just like an example of those squares that we saw on a map earlier on. It's split up into 1 kilometre squares, and you notice here there's numbers going along the left hand side and numbers going along the bottom. The first numbers that we're going to have a look at are numbers called Eastings. These are the numbers at the bottom, so 30, 31, 32 and 33, and anything along this 30 line would have that grid reference of number 30. Anything here would be 31, anything here 32, and the same for anything on here would be 33. An easting, these numbers at the bottom, shows how far east you are. So anything that would be in this square here would have 30. Anything that would be here is 30. Anything that's within this orange marker, anything from 30 right the way across to the border of 31 would have that easting of 30. Instead of being an easting, we also have another set of numbers here, 44, 45, 46 and 47. Instead of being called an easting, these are called northings. And the reason why they're called northings is it shows how far north you are. The same as we kind of had here, anything from here to here would be 30. Anything from this bottom line up to here would have the northing of 44. So anything from there to there has the northing of 44. Anything from here to here has the northing of 45. Anything from here to here is 46. And then if we had another square above, it would be a northing of 47. Sorry, we would say we were in 32, 46. 32 because that's the easting, and 46 because that's the northing. 32, 46 along the corridor and up the stairs. We've now got something that might be a little bit like a map, and it's got lots of different locations on it. We're going to have a go at using those grid references to say this is the square we are in. So the first one we're going to have a go at is Cowslip Farm. So the first thing, identify your easting. So the numbers along the bottom. We can see it's not in this square, so it can't be starting with 30. It's in this column, So it must start with 31. So it's 31, and what is the northing? You're looking for the number at the bottom. It's not 44, so it can't be 3144. Instead, the bottom number is 45, so your grid reference is 3145. Now we're going to look at the grid reference for the school, the number in the top right-hand corner there. I'm going to give you a little go at doing it yourself this time. Remember, look for the number on the left-hand side, look for your easting, the number on the bottom, and it's the school number on the left. Then look for your northing, your number at the bottom, and then piece them together. 3246 is your grid reference because it starts with 32 along the corridor, and it's in that column. And then it's 46 because that's the number at the bottom of the square. So 3246 is our grid reference. Can you find Fredley Manor? Fredley Manor, bottom corner, bottom right here. Have a go at finding me the grid reference. And then we'll go through it. You take the number on the left-hand side of the column it's in, 32, and you take the number at the bottom of the square, 44. So your grid reference is 3244. What about Norbury Park? So Norbury Park, top corner this time. Take the number on the left and the number on the bottom. Your grid reference is 3046. 3046. Beachy Wood. Beachy Wood, bottom corner this time. Take the number on the left. Take the number on the bottom. Left and bottom. Left and bottom. Your grid reference is, well done, 30. That's your number on your left, your easting. And your northing, your number on the bottom, 44. 30, 44. And I believe this is your last one, Lodge Farm. Here, take the number on the left, and hopefully you'll remember by now the number on the bottom, along the corridor and up the stairs. And your grid reference, 3045. 30 is your number on the left, and then along your corridor, your northing is 45. So this whole square is 3045. So that's all for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this geography lesson, something a little bit different. I now need you to go into Google Classrooms, and there's a little sheet for you to have a go at. You're just reading the 4-figure grid references for me. Thanks a lot for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. Bravo. Over and out. Bye. Mr. Lobo signing off with the usual pen drop. See you later. Bye.